Hey, good morning, geometry students. I'm going to do a couple questions off the circles review number 1. The full answer key is on the website. This is just so that you can see a couple more practice questions done in front of you using the formulas. So the first part starts with the equation of the circle. And so I'm going to write it up top to remind you that this is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, where hk is your center, r is your radius. So that's the hk part. That's the r part. So if we do, let's do 2 of these top ones for practice. We'll do numbers 1 and 2 here. So for the first one, the center is the hk, the radius is 12. We're just going to plug in for h, k, and r. So keep the x minus and then plug in 4 squared plus y minus, plug in the negative 2 squared, and then equals 12 squared. All I ask is that you clean things up. So this is going to stay as x minus 4 squared. This will switch to y plus 2 squared, and then 12 squared is 144. That's the format that you're going to leave the equation of that circle. For number 2, same idea. Here's h, here's k, here's r. So when we plug in x minus 5 squared plus y minus 0 squared equals radical 24 squared. I would leave the first parenthesis exactly as is, x minus 5. The second parenthesis, you have a choice. You can keep it as y minus 0, but since you're subtracting 0, we can just make it y squared, and we can lose the minus 0. And then when I square root, that cancels. We get 24. If you do try number 4, please make sure that when you square this, put parentheses around it and then square to get the correct answer. If you don't have the parentheses, it won't come out correct. All right, down at the bottom, you got a couple graphing ones. We'll do one of these here. So you have to work backwards. The biggest thing here is you have to remember to switch the signs for the center point. So if I see x plus 4, that really means it's a minus 4. And y minus 3 means it's positive 3. And then as for the 4, that's equal to r squared. So that's not the radius. That's the radius squared. So take the square root. The radius then comes out to be 2. Once you know the center, you know the radius. Now it's easy. So remember, you go on the x-axis first, left 4. And then up 1, 2, 3. And then from there, count out your radius, 2 units in each direction. So to the right 2, up 2, left 2, and down 2. And then draw your circle. There you go. All right, so there's a practice with the circle equation on this first page. On the second page, it has some of those ones that were challenging at the end of yesterday's notes. We're only going to do one of these. And that's the first one. So when it says a circle with the center 2, 4, that's your HK. And then when they give you the other point, that means you have to calculate the radius. Now keep in mind, any quiz that you take is open notes. So as long as you write down the distance formula and how to use it, you should be good to go. So that's what we have to do here. We have to do the distance formula to calculate the distance between those 2 points. So it is x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared, and then a big old square root over that. To do that part of it, I'm going to use my red pen here. I'm going to make this point x1, y1, make this point x2, y2. All right, we are plugging in. So radical first. And then x2, 7, minus x1, 2, squared, and then plus negative 2 minus negative 4 squared. All right, 7 minus 2, that's just going to be 5 squared. Use your calculator if you need it, but remember plus a positive. So negative 2 plus 4 is going to come out positive 2 squared. And so then we're going to get 25 and 4. So take it all the way to that radical 29. Even if you could simplify that radical, don't stop right there because this is your radius. So your radius is equal to radical 29. That's the distance between the center point and the point on the edge. Now you have what you need to be able to write the equation of the circle. So when we think x minus h, that's the 2 from the center point, squared plus y minus, there's your k, negative 4 squared equals your radius squared. All right, you know what I'm going to say. Clean it up. So x minus 2 squared. This turns into plus a positive squared. The square root and the square cancel each other out. We get 29. There you go. All right. Keep in mind, pause the video anywhere you need to if it's going too quick. All right. My goal, I'd like you to see just 1 or 2 other questions of each type on the other pages. So the formulas that you needed to know from the segments from earlier in the unit. So like number 1 here, it's the product of the parts equals the product of the parts of the other segment. So if I use this first segment, I got 14 and I have x. So it'd be 14 times x. And then I can use the second segment. That's 7 and 10. So it should be equal to 7 times 10. So I have 14x equals 70. Divide by 14. And then grab your calculator. Cell phone calculator is plenty good enough for this. So 70 divided by 14, give you 5. That's it for the first one. Right. Number 2 is the same type of question. Number 3, you've got a secant and actually 2 secants. So it's this one is the outside times the whole piece equals the outside times the whole piece. Just like that. All right, do 1 secant for one part, use the other secant for the other part. So outside literally means it's outside of the circle. So you got 8 here times the whole thing, which would be x plus 8. Then use the other secant for the other part of it. The outside is the piece outside of the circle, so that's the 7. And then times the whole thing. Well, 9 plus 7 would be 16. So that's the whole thing there. And keep in mind, like, it doesn't fully matter if you have parenthesis around that first number or not. You write it whichever way makes you comfortable. Okay? But what does matter is that you distribute it. So 8x plus 64. 7 times 16, what the heck is that? 112. I'm using my calculator over here. Subtract 64. So 112 minus 64 is going to give us 48. Divide by 8. X should come out to be 6. And there you go. Oops, I'm a little off the page there. Let me slide that up. All right. So we use the 2 formulas where one is the segment 1 times segment 2, and then segment 3 times segment 4, or the A times B equals C times D, however you want to think of it. This one's outside times whole equals outside times whole. The last one to think about is the one where you have the tangents. So that is like numbers 5, 6, and 8 here. So let's use 6 as our example, because why not? So this is the tangent part of it. Outside would be this part right here. The whole darn thing is 12 plus 4 or 16. So the formula is tangent squared equals outside times the whole. Let's plug in. In for tangent, we'll go A squared. If you don't like A, call it X. Outside, 4, whole thing, 16. A squared equals 64. Take the square root. We get 8. Ta-da! All right, I hope those couple of extra questions kind of helped you out. I know this is Mrs. Merritt speaking. My classes, we will have a little Google Meet at the start of next week. That's optional if you want to check it out for some extra help. Otherwise, if your teacher is Mr. Murphy or Mrs. Golding, you can check in with them if you need any extra assistance on the review or anything in the unit. Thanks, guys.